Midnight Drearies.
Buford Worrell, but everyone calls him Bubba. Bubba was a corn and pumpkin farmer in Heitman, Iowa, a sleepy little town of barely 100 people just outside of Albia, Iowa, which is down the road a piece from Ottumwa, Iowa. Bubba used to eat so much pumpkin pie that people joked he might turn into one. One day, a mysterious stranger was passing through. He looked like a gunslinger straight out of the Wild West, his face always in shadow, you could never get a good look at him. He gave Bubba a bag of seeds, claiming they were magical. Unbeknownst to Bubba, they were the seeds of Tsathoggua, the dark subterranean god. Bubba planted the magic seeds as a lark, but was gobsmacked when they grew into the biggest pumpkins he had ever seen. He took the pumpkins to the county fair and won first prize. The judges reckoned that they were the biggest pumpkins in the entire state. Of course, Bubba also whipped up some of his famous pies with the new pumpkins and took home the blue ribbon. He had brought plenty of pie for everyone. Everyone loved Bubba's pumpkin pie. This was his best crop ever. People suggested Bubba should start selling the pumpkin pies in the local Hy-Vee grocery store. Bubba started feeling sick that night after getting home. This was the first time he had ever gotten indigestion from pumpkin pie. It must be something else. Maybe he was coming down with a sickness, probably got bitten by a corn bug. The corn bugs were big and nasty in this part of the country. The next morning Bubba had turned into a pumpkin man. His skin had turned thick and orange with spots of bumpy blemishes like a pumpkin. And his head had turned into a smirking jack-o'-lantern. On this day, Bubbaween was born. Bubba heard chanting out in the pumpkin patch. There was a group of men dressed in deep blue robes and masks. They had carved up most of his pumpkins into jack-o'-lanterns with flickering candles inside. Bubba approached the men and said, "What did you sons of bitches do to my prize pumpkins?" One man approached Bubba and said, "I am Louis Van Heflin, head priest and high carver of the cult of Tsathoggua. Witness him, my brothers. He has been chosen and changed by the mighty Tsathoggua to be his avatar on this mortal plane of these rural plains. He is now the Great Lantern." Bubba replied, "So it was you religious fanatics that did this to me." Lewis said, "You have been given a great gift by our Dark Lord." A sleepy hollow fury filled Bubba's black eyes. He began pummeling the cultists. Tentacles of fibrous strands of pumpkin guts emerged from his bloated belly and gave them a squashy squishing of death. As he stood over the fallen men, Bubba said to himself, "They wanted a monster, and I have become so. Look at these hands, hands that kill. Cursed like bad Leroy Brown with a belly of the beast. There is no going back from this dark magic." Bubba buried the men in the soft soil of the pumpkin patch. A fortnight passed and the deceased cultists rose up from their shallow field graves. They were zombies with a dull orange skin and covered in pumpkin stalks. Bubba came raging through the screen door and down off the porch like a bat out of heck. The zombie cultists knelt before him. "Lord Bubbaween, command us, we have returned from death to do your bidding." In the weeks that had passed, Bubba had become lost in a downward spiral of confusion and paranoia. He had embraced his newfound power not as a curse but as a dark blessing. Before he could command his new followers, a bald man in a pristine vintage 1959 Chevrolet Task Force Sport Cameo model truck came tearing through the cornfield. The Huskbuster had a white beagle sitting in the passenger spot on the bench seat that was sticking its head out the window and barking. The truck screeched to a halt in front of them. The cornfield commando jumped out of the truck and grabbed a pump shotgun from the gun rack. The dog hopped out of the open driver's side door. It sniffed the air, then the ground, then went right up to the living corpse of Louis Van Heflin. The dog barked and pointed at Louis. Louis said, "This does not concern you, Chuck." The man responded, "The name's Charles. Charles Hastur. And this is very much my business. I am putting an end to your cult once and for all." Charles began taking out the zombie cultists while his dog bit them. During the fight, Bubba had returned to the porch and sat quietly in a rocking chair, softly singing the old Count Basie song "Going to Chicago" to himself as he rocked back and forth. When the battle was over, Bubba said, "Hey there, fella. Chuck, was it? Well, Chuck, I'm glad you came along. I don't know what came over me. There was a darkness in my heart, and these pumpkin seeds for brains. I wasn't thinking right no more. I've never been afraid of change, but this is something else. Maybe this is for the best. Go ahead and do it, Chuck. Take aim and turn this old squash head into pumpkin puree." With a single shotgun blast, Charles finished the job. He called his dog back into the truck, then got in and left. The world was safe from the potential pumpkin king of cruelty.